Psychedelic Experience record run. This is section number 10. I know it says 9 there, but...
We gotta clap the clapper already.
Clap the clapper.
Yeah.
That sounds like a disease.
Oh, God.
He's got the clapper. Alright, so this is sort of a part 2 of our last video. And just to point this out, kind of teased this in the last one.
Yeah.
Last video was some of the weaker material.
Yeah.
I won't quite say this is all killer, no filler, but it is mostly killer, very little filler.
For sure.
So, quality-wise, maybe our best video.
Ooh.
We tend to go long, so
Yeah.
I know we're asking for a lot of your lunch break to watch these videos, but we're showing some quality vinyl today. So
This is
you
good
wanna
stuff.
you wanna kick us off?
No particular order at all on these, other than that they came from the St. Louis Record Show. Traffic Mr. Fantasy.
Yes.
Really happy to finally pick up a nice clean copy of this. Really, really good album. I know in the last video we talked about John Barleycorn Must Die, and sort of Traffic doesn't really know whether they want to be sort of more pop sensibility or more jammy. And that kind of comes through on here, but it sort of works on this album because it was sort of in that time period where things were getting more experimental, so it's okay to kind of jump genres, if you will. But really, really good, very psych-influenced pop, good blues rock, fantastic. I'm super glad to have this finally.
Okay, so my next 2 finds came from Recycled Records in Springfield, which was sort of my high school haunt. 2 $8 finds from a couple weeks ago. Some more Pink Floyd. This is The Final Cut, which was the last Roger Waters album with Pink Floyd. Somewhat notoriously more of a Waters solo project than anything from the band. And I would say that ultimately I could take or leave this. I am a huge Pink Floyd guy, but I'm a little bit more partial to David Gilmour, his work, than Roger Waters.
Yeah.
And I think that this one, despite some nice cuts, especially on side 2, I think it's a little too angry and a little too ethereal in some ways. You know, if I wasn't super into Pink Floyd, I wouldn't hold on to this. But this one, I'm glad to have it. And it was an $8 pickup, and the cover's in great shape. So, and then another $8 pickup from Recycled, Aphrodites Child 666.
Fantastic.
Anyone who has intelligence may interpret the number of the beast. It is a man's number. The number is 666. Lay off the brown acid, folks. Do this one straight the first time.
Yes.
Treasures lie within. Oh my goodness. This is great psych. I think too often this one gets lumped a little bit more on the spectrum towards prog.
Yeah.
It's there, don't get me wrong, but this is a great psychedelic experience. Do not pass up Aphrodites Child 666 if you can get it for less than $15.
Oh, absolutely.
You're scoring.
Alright, I showed the Ventures Golden Grades in the last video, and here's more in my Ventures sort of vein. This is the Guitar Freak Out by the Ventures. Surf instrumental sort of inspired stuff, but they get a little bit of psychedelic on here, especially with Cookout Freak Out on Lookout Mountain, which is an original, and then Guitar Freak Out on side 2, of course, the title track. They experiment a little bit with guitar rock and do some cool covers, cool stuff. Love it.
The next 5 or 6 records that I'm going to show here are all things that I picked up at the St. Louis Record Show. And I'm not going to show them all here, I'll just sort of trade off with you here. But the Byrds, Younger Than Yesterday, sort of rounds out the first Byrds 6 albums for me, the first 6 albums by the group. I love this album. It's really, really clean. I like it a lot more having given it a spin on vinyl. I've owned the CD for at least a year. But by the time you flip the record over and get to track 2 on side 2, Mind Gardens, you're in deep. That's coming up on the show. I do think that that's a Crosby pen too.
I think so too.
But really, really clean copy of the Byrds, Younger Than Yesterday. Like I said, really, really excited to have this. This was a $5 pickup.
And I'll jump ahead a couple albums just to piggyback yours. This is the Byrds Sweetheart of the Rodeo. I know for you, Younger Than Yesterday sort of completed your Byrds collection.
Yes.
This completes mine.
Yeah, I've had that one for a few months.
Yeah. We both sort of have complete Byrds stuff now. For what we want, anyway, I should say. This is the Byrds doing full-on country rock. Younger Than Yesterday, of course, has some of the psych elements, especially with Mind Gardens. But very country rock in spots. This is full-on country rock, and I love it. I'm a big fan of Ray LaMontagne, and his live shows, he'll do some covers off of this and sort of mention this as sort of a pinnacle album in sort of his discovery of music. And Fantastic. I can't say enough about it.
Pretzel Logic, Steely Dan. Excited to have this.
Yeah.
I'm looking to complete sort of original pressings of all the early Steely Dan stuff. Just because they're not that expensive. Steely Dan, you know, you're gonna find this was $2. Ricky, don't lose that number. Peg. No, I'm sorry. Peg's not on this one. What am I thinking of? Can I start this over?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. Ricky, don't lose that number's on this one. Buried Town, Parker's Band. I like a lot of this stuff on this one. Pretzel Logic, good album, $2, great pickup. Thanks to the original pressing too, happy to have it.
I know in the last video I mentioned what I paid for these St. Louis show finds, but it's just as a reminder, about $3.25 an album. It would take a little bit, so really, really good scores here. And this is one I was kind of blown away to find. This is the Gans Roadrunner, a nice mono copy, very, very clean cover, very clean disc. A guy had this in his bin for $5, and I think he just sort of bundled stuff for me, so I got it for a little bit cheaper than that. But really, really happy to have this. Very Beatles-esque, sort of like early Beatles pop rock, but with a little bit of a garage bent to it.
Cool, very cool.
Really, really good stuff. And as far as garage rock goes, this isn't on the psych side of garage like the Siege or the Standells, but this is just kind of more straightforward garage pop rock. But really good, sort of top tier, I would say, top shelf garage rock. Really, really good stuff.
Very cool, very cool. Mono copy, Bob Dylan, first album. Not a first pressing, but an early pressing. I think later '63 on this one. Record, not in great shape, but the cover is super clean. I've got a stereo copy where the record doesn't look good, but sounds good. This one, it doesn't look good and it doesn't sound good. But the mono cover is super clean, and for being more than 50 years old, I'm just not going to complain. It's another $5 pickup. Pumped about it.
This is the Rolling Stones Between the Buttons. Early Stone stuff is always beat up when I find it. I can never find good clean copies. And this is sort of that case, like the ringware really isn't that bad on here, but the disc is a little rough. It is a mono copy, and thanks to Chris over at Dixieland Farm, I do have a mono switch, which really helps with the sound a lot. So again, a big thanks for Chris. Camera malfunction. Fantastic stuff. Ruby Tuesday's on here. Fantastic. And in mono Stones, I'm all in.
Not psych at all, but for $6, not going to pass up. Madness, One Step Beyond. We look like we could be in Madness today with our wardrobe. Yeah. So, admittedly, this is like the one record I'm showing, other than the ones I just got from Bo that I haven't put on the turntable yet. I kind of would have preferred the one with Our House on it, but hey, $6 for a really, really good-looking Madness.
Yeah.
I'm not going to pass it up.
No, I don't see that often at all.
Yeah, and I dig new wave. I think I've been honest about that. I've got my new wave tendencies. So here we go, $6. Glad to have it.
Cool stuff, man. This was in a $2 bin at the show. A really, really clean copy of Wake of the Flood. Sort of the country rock, jammy stuff of Grateful Dead. American Beauty On is the stuff I'm most familiar with. Their early, like 2 or 3 first albums I'm not as familiar with, even though I will show one later. Teaser in the business. Really
Teaser in the business. Yeah, you had to do it, didn't you?
I did. Dug this. I'm kind of turning into a Grateful Dead convert, I would say. I'm not at Deadhead status yet, but they're winning me over.
2 weeks from now, we'll post a video with DJ Mellow Yellow getting a teddy bear tattooed on his shoulder.
Oh gosh, I hope not.
Another $6 pickup from the show. Big Brother and the Holding Company. Fairly clean cover of, one that just tough not to get ringware on the white album.
Yeah.
This is a probably 70 or 71 Columbia, maybe 69 Columbia repress. I enjoyed this quite a bit, especially side 2. All of it was good, but side 2 kind of did it for me a little bit more. So Big Brother and the Holding Company, the self-titled with Janis Joplin up there. Really cool stuff. Featuring Janis Joplin, I'm sorry.
Really good stuff. I like that album a lot. This was one of those, sort of like Bass and Profit, and I've kind of mentioned that before in the past, where you see it a lot at the record show. Prices are all over the place, anywhere from $2 to like 15. And finally found a decent $2 copy, and was like, I'm gonna pop on it and see what this is like. This is Fat Mattress, self-titled. This is actually Noel Redding of the Jimi Hendrix Experience. This is his group, bass player in Hendrix, plays guitar on here, does vocals on here as well. really good stuff. I actually really liked this. It's not anything like Jimi Hendrix. It's not as heavy or as hard as the Experience. This is sort of softer psych pop. But I dug it. I really liked this. Was a pleasant find for me. Kind of a blind buy and exceeded expectations, I guess.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. So sort of my find of the show.
Yeah.
If you will, if you are a fan of our video series, admittedly I'm piggybacking off of a lot of stuff that Mellow Yellow bought last year and put in his top 10. But I couldn't pass up Funkadelic Maggot Brain. Not an original pressing, but the only Canadian issue ever. This is on, and I want to get this right, it's Westbound Records, so not as prevalent as some of the other ones.
Yeah.
There is a corner cut, obviously, but I don't really care about that because it's just blackness up there anyway.
Yeah.
And probably shouldn't have said that about this album. Oh my gosh, cut. Love it.
It's so good.
It's really, really good.
Yeah.
It's funky
Yeah.
and psychedelic,
Yeah.
and it's Maggot Brain. I'm really, really pumped about this. Really pumped about this find.
Absolutely. All right, this is one I know the Psych Professor is into, and I am as well.
Oh, I love
This is Pink Floyd, Wish You Were Here. Finally found a nice, cheap copy of this. Cover looks kind of rough, but the album is really, really clean. I dug it.
Oh, it's awesome.
It really is.
Oh, how could you not like it? Every track on that album is great.
I agree, 100%.
The title track is in my top 10 songs of all time. Shine on You Crazy Diamond.
Oh.
Some of the best space deep rock you're going to find.
Absolutely.
Have a Cigar, great commentary on the music business.
Yeah.
It's just all there. Welcome to the Machine, kind of industrial prog. It's a really, really cool nugget.
It is. Fantastic.
It's a must-have.
It is.
It's a must-have.
Enough said.
All right, so I had a little bit of trade-in value after the record show and hit up GB's here in town. We've talked a lot about GB's. Just a shout out to Gary Bob over there. Great little record store in Decatur. It's a cool, cool place to shop for records, especially when you've got some trade-in value, so you essentially get kind of kinks for freezing. It's on Marble Arch, the import Canadian label, so it has the original British track listing.
It's very cool.
It is really, really cool, and I am just pleased as beans to have it.
Moving along through my St. Louis record show finds, again about $3.25 an album.
Oh,
this is Gypsy,
killer.
Self-titled. This is a little bit later reissue on Cognito. I think originally it was on Metro Media.
Okay. Full Gatefold.
Full Gatefold, 2 albums. Really good stuff. Gets a little bit proggy, I would say, but really good prog stuff. The stuff I kind of like about it. Very spacey, very psych influenced. Their first 3 albums, Antithesis and In the Garden, along with this self-titled debut, fantastic stuff. This is stuff you should seek out if you're a psych nut or a prog nut. It'll kind of, the Venn diagram of things, it overlaps. Yes, absolutely. Great stuff. I'm happy to finally have a nice clean copy of this. Been on my radar for a long time.
Very cool. Okay, so still at GB's. This was one, these next 2 I kind of ponied up for.
Super
had,
jealous.
like I said, some trade-in value, and then was able to bundle a little bit. And again, those guys are great about it. This was a jealousy one for Mellow Yellow.
Oh, big time.
Who Magic Bus. This has some cool stuff on it, including a track that we're going to play pretty soon on the show called Run, Run, Run. Obviously, the title track, Magic Bus, really good. Also like Dr. Doctor and Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde from this.
Very cool.
Tons of good stuff, and kind of as drippy psych as The Who ever got. And certainly visually as psych as they ever got, I think.
Yeah, for sure.
So, The Who, Magic Bus.
Love that cover. Do you want to say what you paid for it? You don't have to.
I don't.
No pressure.
I don't want to say what I paid for
Cool.
it because
You got a good deal.
my wife has the internet. This one's cool.
Oh yeah, this is my last find from the St. Louis Record Show stuff. Then I'll be moving along there. But again, about $3.25 an album. T-Rex, the Electric Warrior. Oh,
Were you sitting like this when you listened to it? Like,
I kind of was. I actually listened to this one on my couch in my music room. I kind of didn't have anything going on at the time. Just put it down, and I love this. I already had the slider, which I like quite a bit.
This was an upgrade from that, in your opinion, like better
Absolutely,
album?
I agree. especially for me, because I do like the psych sensibilities a little bit more. The Slider is a little bit more 70s glam rock.
Yeah.
And this has absolutely elements of that as well. There's very much glam rock stuff on here, but there's some trippy elements as well to this. This is moving up very high in favorite albums. I've actually listened to this like 4 or 5 times since I got it, and I will be listening to it again and again and again. Love it. Can't say enough about it.
Okay, so my last find at GB's, and again, kind of ponied up for these because I got a good bundle and I had some trade value. But this is a first pressing, and it's really, really clean, of the Doors Morrison Hotel. And this is my last Doors album that I needed to buy. This is a first pressing. It's got the Big E Electra. I'm going to go ahead and show that just so you know what I'm talking about if you're getting into collecting. The Electra label, 69 and I think very, very early 70. Still had the Big E on the label, so I'm going to show that there. Also want to show the inner sleeve, just because I've never come across this before. It's a sleeve, Electra's there, and this is there, talking about the new buildings that are going to be the headquarters for Electra on the East and West Coast. Some early 70s and late 69 Electra stuff. People say that's the way to tell if it's the original. Look for the Big E and look for this insert. So
cool. This is the second time tonight that I have had major deja vu.
I did mention that interior sleeve thing to you before.
Okay, maybe I remember that.
That actually happened. We did talk about that.
I'm not insane. Okay, good.
Well, you are, but you know, different reasons. Okay, so that was my last pickup at GB's Morrison Hotel. I don't mean to laugh at you. It's past midnight here, so we're getting old. We're getting old and we're getting loopy.
All right, we went to a Reverberation Vinyl twice in the past 2 weeks, week and a half. Again, Reverberation Vinyl, one of the best stores we've ever been to. Quality stuff.
We need to write that book about the best record stores around.
We do.
Someone needs to pay us to road trip around the country and go to baseball stadiums and record stores.
It's research.
Come on, folks. I mean, we could do this for $60,000 and sell 60,000 copies.
Oh, sure. Absolutely. I think that's reasonable.
That probably, from a business model standpoint, is like someone from a publishing company is just going to reply like, that would make you no money.
Anyway, Reverberation Vinyl, dollar bin find here. This is
So
Alice
cool.
Cooper, Love It to Death. I recently sort of discovered that I like early Alice Cooper stuff.
Does this have 18 on it?
This does. This has I'm 18. Really dig it. Whatever, you know. I've made fun of this stuff in the past, I'm sure.
Hey, that's kind of a cool.
I dig it though. Yeah, it's you know, before Alice Cooper was sort of a persona, and they were still kind of a group. So I dig it, and for $1, a pretty clean copy actually on the Warner label, not on the straight label, but Warner label. The censored sort of cover there, but it's cool stuff. I like it.
All right, so our first trip to Reverb.
Yeah.
More Pink Floyd for you there.
More
Soundtrack
Pink Floyd,
to Floyd's or more. Soundtrack to Babette Schroeder's More by Pink Floyd. So there's more Pink Floyd, and it's more. And this one is jam rock.
Yeah.
And it's an early pressing on Harvest. I love early Pink Floyd now.
Absolutely.
I love the space rock stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't think that I did, and now I'm so into it. So, again, slap me on the wrist. Love me some early Pink Floyd. More really helping me round out the early Floyd collection.
It's cool, man. Very, very cool.
Oh, I didn't realize you picked that up.
Yeah. This was a couple bucks, $2 or $3. This is Spirits Clear. Put it on the turntable today while I was putting the playlist together for this evening. I really didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it, so I need to put it back on the turntable. But liked what I heard and liked what kind of stuck out. So, you know, more from Spirit. Just sort of standard fare from them, but good stuff. This is nice, floaty psych. I dig it quite a bit. So good stuff.
Here was my last pickup from our first trip to Reverb. On Parlophone, Hard Day's Night, and John had this price, I think, at about 14, maybe $15.
Not bad at all.
This is a 71 repress. It's on stereo, and as I said, Parlophone. that kind of completes the early Beatles on Parlophone for me.
Yeah.
I have a lot of the later stuff on Capitol just because at that point it was the same track listing.
Sure.
But love having the early Beatles on Parlophone.
That's really cool.
It's just kind of special. And this rounds out the Beatles for me. I have all of their LPs on vinyl now.
Very nice. And by all you mean studio, I'm sure, not.
Yes, I do not.
Every
I don't have every comp and Live at the Hollywood Bowl and you know,
rarities and love story.
tape from Shea Stadium, and I mean all of the. I have all of the British pressings. I do not particularly care for the Capitol pressings of Beatles 6, the Beatles Something New. I do have Beat the Beatles. I think that's the one early Capitol one you have to have. Oh, this is so cool!
This is cool. This is sort of a flyer I picked up. This is the British Psychedelic Trip 1966 to 1969. It's a compilation, obviously. I don't normally pick up compilations, but this is a collection. This is volume 1. They had a bunch of different volumes. This is volume 1. Collection of singles off of the Decca record label. And the main reason I picked this up, perusing both sides of the album, I recognized zero of the group.
I looked at this and I was like, I have heard of none of that.
Yep, and I liked this. I liked this a lot. Sort of in an orchestral pop sort of sense. But there are a couple tracks that get pretty deep and stuff that we'll be playing on the show for sure. And the liner notes on the back of this are extensive. They go into great detail about each track and each band. Some of the groups get a couple tracks on here. Really, really interesting read. Liked it quite a bit. You can still pick this up pretty cheap, it looks like. So highly recommended.
All right. So while we were in Bloomington, we were headed over to Normal actually. North Street Records. We don't buy a bunch there, but what we do buy, we're always really happy with.
Definitely.
Always a cool new arrival bin. And I got this Basement Tapes Bob Dylan first pressing, $5. I have never been in love with this album. I've had it on CD for years now. And I kind of think it is it is a Rolling Stone overpraise.
Yeah.
It is given the personalities involved, the music absolutely must be great because it's Bob Dylan.
Right,
and the band.
exactly.
I just total crapshoot. It's like number 256 in their 500 greatest albums of all time. And I would say, no, there's definitely 500 albums that are greater than this. But it's cool to have, you know, bootlegs from the band and Bob Dylan. So for $5, my appreciation of it did grow listening to it on vinyl. So I'm really, really glad to have it. North Street, I don't know who the guys there are, but shout out to them. Thanks for pricing this the way you did. Really, really enjoyed it for what it was.
Another one from Reverb, and then I've got two from North Street as well. This is the Illusion self-titled, one that Sam has been big on and trying to get me to pick up.
I really like this album.
Yeah.
And if you got this at Reverb, you got it at the right price.
I did, yeah. This was like $6 or $7.
Yeah.
Talking Sweet Talking Soul is really good.
Yes.
And the opening track, Did You See Her Eyes?
Yes! Great
Love it.
blues psych.
And I've got their second 2 albums. They're not as good, but I still enjoy them quite a bit.
Yeah.
They're kind of cool blues rock, blues psych. This, though, is really, really good. I listened to this week, and your praise was accurate. It's good stuff.
Really
Underrated.
enjoyable, isn't it?
Yeah,
Really, really
it
enjoyable.
is.
I would put that in my next 500.
Good call, sir. I like that.
Noted. So I had 2 more pickups on a
my butt.
return.
It's killing me. Anyway, go ahead.
2 more pickups on a return trip to Reverb after John posted a killer video. A couple of them actually that John knows what he's doing as far as getting us to the store at least. So I'm going to show the one that I'm a little bit less excited about than the one that I'm just over the moon about. So
You should.
happy to have this, not an original pressing, but a 77 pressing of Patti Smith's Horses.
Very cool.
I've owned this, another one that I've owned on CD for years.
Yeah.
Kind of listened to it and was like, meh, don't really get what's so great about this. Vinyl brought it out, man.
Yeah.
It was the active listening experience of vinyl. And I've always liked her cover of Gloria.
Yes, it's really good.
Reimagination altogether of Van Morrison's song. But I like this whole thing, actually. This is the 77 repressing, probably a bunch of them repressed in 77 as the bands that this influenced became massively popular.
For sure.
So obviously Patti Smith's sort of one of the early CBGB's emerging stars.
Fantastic
But
stuff.
really, really happy to have this one.
Alright, the next two are from North Street Records. I actually found like 5 or 6 albums and I put them all back because I didn't have any money. I spent like $10 there, and that was my absolute limit.
We walked in and he said, he was like, I cannot spend more than $10 there. You know what you spent?
$10? Oh, 11. That's right. I spent 11.
$11.
I did. But I put a couple albums back. They had some good stuff in the new arrivals, including this. This is the Animals Animalism, a nice mono copy, first pressing. I think it was $4. Average on Discogs is like 15 or 20.
Nice.
So, and this is a really clean copy. Just a great blues rock album from the Animals, and I dig them quite a bit. Sort of, again, kind of an underrated group. They were very popular at the time, but now they're sort of kind of like, oh yeah, those are the guys that covered House of the Rising Sun. They're way better than that song.
Oh, I mean that song is
it's great. A great song.
It's a great song.
Interpretation
but their catalog should not be reduced.
Yeah,
their oeuvre is much greater.
Absolutely
than that one
agree.
song.
So, yeah, great pickup here. Cool find.
And then this was the second, like, oh my gosh, find at Reverb, the second trip. So, the Stooges. And as far as I can tell, it's a 69 pressing. Somebody taped this at one point. They obviously love this album because the record's in really good shape and they took good care of it.
The rest of the cover's in really nice shape.
It is. And it did have an original price sticker on it that said, like, now $384 with a piece of tape over it that I was somewhat conflicted about taking off, but I ended up taking it off just because I kind of like the starkness of this cover. Obviously, sort of a take on the Doors, self-titled,
for sure.
A little bit, but a different enough photograph, a different enough approach that I think it's really, really cool. And my appreciation for Elektra 67 to 71 is just, it's skyrocketing.
Stellar.
Everything they signed was great.
Yeah.
And the Stooges were an add-on. Have you heard this story?
Yeah.
The guy who went to Detroit was going to sign the MC5, and the Stooges opened for them. They played like 4 tracks. He thought they were great live, signed them both, if not on the same night, very, very close to each other. And he was like, all right, we're going to send the Stooges to New York to record. And they said, you know those 4 songs we played? Those are the 4 songs we know. But this is the coolest album in terms of being both proto-punk and deep psych.
It really is,
These have got to be... along with that Pink Floyd that you gave me, Bo, and Funkadelic, this and the MC5 back in the USA. Boy, that's my top 10 for this year. Is looking pretty nifty.
It really is.
And unfortunately, so is the amount of money. But Bo gave me that one for free.
That's right.
And
I'm that average price point down,
It will, and I'm holding to my summer budget that my wife gave me steadily. So on camera, high five.
Woo. And I feel like I got a pretty good deal on this as well. This is North Street Records find. This is the Grateful Dead Anthem of the Sun, their second album, I believe. Second or third?
It's comical that we run a show called the Psychedelic Experience, and our knowledge of the Grateful Dead is limited.
It's so limited. And part of it, I don't like to listen to albums that are considered kind of in the pantheon before I own them.
Yes.
So the Grateful Dead's debut, this one, gosh, how do you pronounce it? Axomoxia?
Yeah.
Or whatever. I don't even know how to pronounce it. But those 3 I've kind of intentionally avoided listening to until I found them. And again, sort of American Beauty On is what I own. And it's more country rock. This, though... oh my goodness, blew my mind, man. This is super deep, jammy psych. Boy, loved this album. Seriously, like, hope you find a copy soon, sir.
I'm looking forward to it, but I will probably, if I'm at your house anytime soon, that's the one we'll be at.
Yeah, absolutely. Put it on. We'll do it.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Is that it?
I'm tapped out. Oh, long night.
What time is it?
It is almost 1 a.m.
No way. Oh my gosh.
I've got to work tomorrow afternoon, and I've got to work tomorrow morning, and it looks like I'm going to be working a little bit of tomorrow night as well. So, long time until I'm actually going to be able to listen to some of these. I've listened to most of what I showed you there, but man, we're killing it. If we don't have good shows coming up, nobody to blame but ourselves.
That's so true.
We need to put some great playlists together. Tune in next week and every week from 8 to 10 to at least 10 p.m.
Yeah.
On 89.5 WJMU The Quad. Find us online. We'll link it below. We love feedback. We love hearing what you guys have to say. We love looking at your records too. So post away, and the Psychedelic Experience will return with another record run at some point. Until then, avoid scratches and stay in the groove.